I'm so happy to see other faces. I was lonesome here.
So are you enjoying the weather on the coast or are you in the valley today?
I'm in the valley because I need to be able to be online. And, when they say when Portland sneezes, the rest of Oregon gets a cold. Well, if you're at the capillary end of the grid, then things are a bit tenuous. But thanks for asking. I hope you're well and safe, everybody.
No problem here, the sun's shining.
Oh, good, because I'm getting warnings at 2:30 in the morning. Wake up, there's problems.
Morning, everybody.
Good morning. Glad you're here.
And I think this is going to be it. I understand that Commissioner Bangs and Commissioner Wakua have conflicts this morning. So we got 10:30. We'll go ahead and get started. Work sessions are an opportunity for board members to discuss issues informally with staff and invited guests. The board encourages members of the public to attend work sessions and listen to the discussion, but there's generally no opportunity for public comment. Members of the public wishing to address the board are welcome to do so during the board's regularly scheduled meetings held twice monthly. We have 3 items on the agenda. We'll start with the agenda review. Any comments?
Pull that out. Just a
Question?
moment.
This will be a small but poignant discussion. Is that it? No, I'm good with the agenda. Happy to have the updates.
Okay, and Therese is pulling up the rolling agenda. So we have our regular work session and regular meeting next Wednesday, but we have canceled the 19th and the 26th meetings.
I think that's sensible.
Yeah, I do too. Any comments?
No, I hope to see everyone at the AOC annual conference. If for no other reason, I mean, I think it's good for Clatsop County's reputation and standing and participation for us to be there, but I'm also running to be AOC treasurer, and I'd be grateful if people came and voted for me.
Yes, good luck, Commissioner Thompson.
Thank you, sir.
Okay, I think we'll move on then to our business agenda here. We have the Fort Point subdivision, City of Warrenton notice of decision on page 2. And do we start with County Manager Don Boone?
Chair Pulos and members of the board, I'm going to quickly hand it off to Terry, who's been dealing with this issue. But this obviously deals with the Fort Point development, which your board has heard about at various times. It's a large development over in Warrenton. The Housing Authority is also part of the overall development scheme out there, but not surprisingly, there are some county interests with this development, and the interests really revolve around Ridge Road. And that includes traffic impacts and it includes right-of-way. And there's been certain assumptions developed as part of the development that does impact how we see the use of the right-of-way and the traffic. And so Terry is going to give us a little bit of an overview of where we are with this and then some of the concerns that the county has as we move forward. And obviously get your board's input. So,
yeah, thank you, County Manager. All right, Public Works Director Terry Hendricks.
Morning, Chair Quila and members of the board. I'd like to present some information regarding the Fort Point subdivision and get some direction from the board regarding the county road right-of-way, Ridge Road itself, and the City of Warrenton's notice of decision, particularly placing a trail within the county's right-of-way. First thing I'd like to do is like to share my screen. I'm not sure, is that coming up on your screen?
No.
Not yet.
No, it's not, Terry.
You know, I'm new at trying to share my screen here, so bear with me. I don't even see where I can do that. Oh, there we go.
There you go.
Not those. Is that big enough to see?
Well, we can see a portion of it. Yeah. There we go. I see a little bit more. Yeah.
Let me. So the Fort Point subdivision, as you're looking at it, phase one goes through the first entrance is at station 800 there, which I have marked. And then there's an end of phase one at 1160 beyond that. So it's roughly 2,000 feet from the KOA Fort Stephen entrance. The squiggly line running east rather, of the road itself is where the city of Warrenton anticipated that they would like to see the multi-use path placed. The darker line just above that denotes the right of way for the road itself. So are there any questions before I move forward about the 4 Point subdivision and this phase one as it entails the road?
Any questions? No.
I guess,
Commissioner Webb.
yeah, I have a question. Terry, I've spoken to you a bit about this. But where is the NOD has been produced? Was there a response to the NOD from the developer?
The developer said that the design that you see on that screen is actually what the developer proposed. That way they didn't have to build a playground in the open space. They were able to utilize the open space inside the subdivision itself. So they were just hoping that they'd be able to utilize the county's right of way to be able to use most of their buildable space.
Okay, well, the last time I talked to you about this, I thought we were still at a point where we hadn't responded to them yet.
We have not responded. That's why I'm bringing this to the board for your input, so that we, when we approach them on this, we know exactly where we're going with it and what your wishes are.
Okay. So I guess I'm always reluctant, especially after the new kerfuffle that we had, what was it, a couple of years ago now, about liability on our pathways. And so I guess has this been to our county council yet?
Not that I'm aware of, although the recent legislature put the recreational liability to rest, I believe.
That's right. Okay, we think we're completely out of that. Okay.
Are there?
Commissioner Thompson?
Well, thank you. I'm not clear what an NOD is. And to address Commissioner Webb's concern, I share Director Hendrick's opinion that the legislative action has reinstated recreational immunity, so we are protected from liability in that right of way for recreational purposes.
Okay.
But an NOD, I don't know what that is.
I think that's notice of decision. Am I right, Terry?
That is correct.
Thank you. That's clear for the record and for me. Thanks.
Well, and it was in our packet, and NOD is usually, I'm sorry, this is your planner talking. An NOD is usually basically, some jurisdictions call it conditions of approval. And it's a listing from the jurisdiction about what the conditions basically are for the development. And it was in our packet. I really appreciated that because I thought the city of Warrenton was really very complete with a, I mean, this is an enormous development for any place within Clatsop County. And so I was very pleased that they took, I don't know if our planning folks, I don't know, do you know, county manager, the extent to which Gail was involved in this?
I don't think Gail is actively involved in it, Commissioner, because it's a city of Warrenton, jurisdictional, issue. And I think the biggest and the biggest interface with the county is with Public Works. And I think Terry hasn't quite explained some of the concerns that the county has with the use of the right of way, so I'll let Terry explain some of his concerns.
Okay, if there's no other questions, not everybody, when I had talked with, either, I believe it was with Commissioner Webb, knew where Ridge Road was or what it even looked like. So I hope you're seeing, now Ridge Road on your screens.
Yes, sir.
Yes.
All right. This starts at the northern entrance to Fort Stevens, which is actually where we would like to start our third lane or center turn lane. What I'm going to do is I'm going to take you on a trip of what it looked like in 2024 before they removed the timber and the vegetation just south on their property. So as you travel,
Terry, we're still seeing the map, so if it's something else that you're referring to, we don't see that.
Mm-mm. Here it comes. This is great.
are you seeing it now? Or are you still seeing the map?
Still seeing the map.
Okay, if I could share the screen again here. Are you seeing the screen now?
Mm-mm.
Not yet.
Ah.
Okay. Yeah, we can see it now.
Sorry about that. I'll back it up here. This is the KOA entrance, Fort Stevens entrance. This is the property line of the development of Fort Point. This is actually in 2024, before they were allowed to take all the vegetation off. This goes down to right about here. This is about the end of phase 1. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to stop it there and I'm going to jump to 2025. This is the new photos that we received from our contractor. And we'll basically run the same stretch of road again. This is what it looked like about 3 months ago when it was actually sunshining. Again, here's the entrance to KOA Fort Stevens. Where this first entrance is coming up here on the left is approximately the first entrance that was on the phase 1 development. As you can see, the vegetation's all gone, and note where the poles are at on this photo. This is a 160-foot right of way. The center line of the right of way of Ridge Road is 80 feet each side of this center line. And the center line falls really close when we did the survey to the center of the right of way. The distance between the edge of the existing pavement, which is a bike lane, to the bottom of the poles is roughly 13 feet. Right of way from where the pole sits up the slope it varies between 50 to 60 feet as we go down the road. So that's just some information as to how extensive the berm and the sand dune is and how that would actually hide the development. So I'm going to stop sharing there. Are there any questions about the video that I can run back through? Any questions that you have?
I see Commissioner Thompson. Commissioner Thompson?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Director Hendricks, when we were doing emergency preparedness work, that berm was very important as a place where people could gather in order to be safe in case of tsunami and that sort of thing. Do you see that can continue to be a safety and island of refuge?
Not when they do their construction. Their plans, according to what was shown in that preliminary plan, is to take and utilize everything east of the right of way, which means they'll be cutting the backside of that berm. One of the problems I see with their plan is the city's setback is 15 feet for backyards along there. When you cut that berm, the angle of repose of that sand, which means the angle that it's going to settle out at, is roughly on a 1.5 to 1 slope. That height of that above the road as the right-of-way line varies from 15 to 20 feet. So you're looking at 22 to 28 feet roughly, instead of 15 feet for just a general setback. And then you have to stabilize that slope either with a retaining wall or over time with gravel. And so it's one of the problems I see with the preliminary plan. They're utilizing all of their property with proper setbacks, but they're not taking into account what's going to happen when they take and cut that sand dune in half.
Well, thank you. So if I could continue my question with a follow-up, I want to see safety maintained as well as stability of the land, and we all know how sand acts. I just offer that up as my concern. Thank you.
Okay, so that's probably going to answer one of my questions, and give the city some additional input as to, the questions: how do they plan on stabilizing the dune? Because they have the right to take and cut it up to the right-of-way line, but then they can't impact the front of that, and so it can't slough off back to the east. And so it's something that that we'll have to work with them on.
And again, as they're stabilizing, if they can create or recreate or somehow establish an island of safety of whatever dimension, safety, emergency preparedness people think appropriate, I'd like us to bring in the emergency preparedness people to consider that. Because Ridge Road has been in all of the emergency response planning that I was aware of. It was very important to be someplace where people could come. Now that we expect to have more and more people, it'll be even more important. Thank you.
Terry, I got a question. I haven't read the traffic study that was done in the report. I live on Ridge Road. I know Commissioner Wakua lives on Ridge Road as well. I can't, for the life of me, understand how 450 units isn't going to impact traffic on Ridge Road. And I know how busy it gets during the summer at Fort Stevens. And I've said this before. I mean, it's a very congested place during, the summer months. And I know we're talking about traffic concerns in your report and then talking about accommodations that we would make, but I don't see why this wouldn't be the developer's responsibility to contribute to a solution.
That was brought up by the city of Warrenton at the meeting that I attended. And they were skeptical as well of the traffic study that was conducted. So they asked that another engineer look at the study and see. They actually had 3 additional engineers look at it, and they all came to that same conclusion, which kind of surprised the county engineer and myself. So, that's the reason that we are presenting this as a safety measure, hopefully to plan to build out a center turn lane and in phases as they develop. But we would actually like to start that at the northern entrance to Battery Russell, run it all the way through the KOA Fort Stevens intersection.
Mhm.
You know how congested that is as well.
Mhm.
But it would be a phased approach. We just, with everything else we have going on with the bypass, the money is going to be, it's going to take a while to accumulate what we need to do it. So, the other thing that, I wanted your input on is to whether or not you think that we should build that center turn lane. I mean, we've taken the time to do a survey. We've got a preliminary design. We got a couple of them because there's a couple different ways we could be handled. But we want to get your input on whether or not you think that's viable or not, something that should be done.
Commissioner Thompson, then Commissioner Webb. Commissioner Thompson.
I agree with you, Chair, and I see Commissioner Webb nodding as well. That center turn lane is going to be essential. It may not be adequate. We do want to support the creation of more affordable housing, and traffic concerns have to be addressed, or it's not a viable project, in my opinion. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Thompson. Commissioner Webb? You're on mute, Commissioner Webb.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry. My roommate likes to contribute sometimes to our deliberations, and so I don't think we need a barking dog. Even though she's been there a lot, this is an area that we hike a lot, so she's kind of familiar with it. No, I am becoming a fan of center turn lanes. I think it's very interesting to me that when ODOT did the Route 30 at sort of the junction with 8th Street in Astoria, there was an awful lot of community adverse reaction to it. And now that I've spent the last couple of months actually, traveling up and down the coast to different jurisdictions, I'm seeing ODOT just implement them in all kinds of different places, and I really like them. And when I first took a look at this project, especially in terms of how the developer was anticipating getting people in and out, it's very unusual to have a development of this size with what is it? It's like the east side of it that is, they're not going to be, unless you're in a boat, you're not going to be able to enter it from there. It's one of the things that to me, the first thing I looked at was that, you're only going to be able to enter this huge thing from one direction. And to me, that complicates the exits and entrances tremendously because people don't have many options. And so it's going to put a huge burden on those intersections. And so to me, this isn't a typical, I know that I know that in the Willamette Valley, this is often an issue because of the way I-5 intersects and cuts off one direction of exits and entrances. So I feel like I'm back in the valley, but this is a huge impact, and I didn't see that the development was introducing any real consciousness of this. So Terry, I don't know, from you guys, I mean, you're the highway road experts here. I mean, do you have that same feeling that?
Well, on total build out, there will be more entrances, but for phase one, there will only be two entrances. And depending on how fast things come together for them, I haven't seen what the city's requiring for their widths and their turn lanes in and out of the subdivision. That could have a big impact on it as well.
Yeah.
So
Can we tell them that? I mean, that's
Well,
the kind of thing,
we can pass that information along to them that we would like to see their design for that coming in and out.
Good. I think we should do that.
So one of the questions that I had for you is as you noticed in the preliminary plan, it showed the multi-use path being between the roadway and the right of way. Well, as you see, the roadway and the right of way, when we add that additional lane, there's not going to be any room or very little room left to take and put that trail in there unless they're going to use the bike lane. We might have the opportunity to add our bike lanes at a minimum, got to be 6 feet wide. We could potentially add 4 feet to that to give a 10-foot paved width on that side for them to be able to use that as their trail, or we just don't worry about it and tell the city of Warrenton we're not going to be able to accommodate it on the east side of our road because of the width of adding a center turn lane. Because what I'm hearing is you would prefer to keep the berm in place along there as a natural sound barrier, vegetation barrier for the subdivision.
I got a question, Terry. I mean, again, and Commissioner Webb, you're a planner, you might know this more than I do, but is it typical for a development to utilize right of way to meet open space requirements? I know that Warrenton has a 20, I mean, if you build 20 units, you're supposed to have a park created. And you're supposed to provide that open space. And I don't quite understand why it would be the county that's having to provide this space for a trail or a multi-use trail. And there not be, I don't see a park located anywhere in the development unless I'm missing it, but it just seems a little strange.
No, there's a park.
I believe it's located in the northeast corner.
Again, there's 20 units, you have to have a park. There's 450 going in here. Commissioner Thompson.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. What I'm looking for is to maximize the benefits. I don't mind yielding the county right away for a good purpose, getting people safely outdoors and offering transportation options with bicycles and walking and that sort of thing. I'm for that. We need to stabilize that dune, berm, whatever you want to call it. We need to keep people removed enough from the road that they're safe. With distracted drivers, it's any pedestrians at risk now, any place. We see that everywhere. Nevertheless, it makes sense to me that we allow it, even if it's kind of pushed together, to have that bike lane and then 4 extra feet, 10 feet. That's good enough. I see bicyclists all the time riding down 101, driving the other traffic crazy because there's no room for them to go around the hills and curves and that sort of thing. So if we've got nice flat territory here where we've got 10 feet, man, that looks like a lot to me. And I think that's a reasonable, I would call it stipulation. I don't know if that's the appropriate land use term, but I would make that a condition that they allow that berm for safety and they allow the walking and biking for alternative transportation and health and well-being.
Thank you, Commissioner Thompson. Commissioner Webb.
I guess I really am very, very interested in what our engineers feel and would love to be able to have stipulations that Terry, that you and your smart guys must approve or well, at a minimum must see the design of these intersections. I mean, that's basic to me. I think that, you know, anytime a developer crosses into a county or a state road, the design has got to be okay. You know, with us, it's so I think that's just basic here, just very, very basic.
Well, Terry, I think your question was, in order to sustain livability, have separation from the road, Public Works like to maintain all of the dune within our right of way over the length of the project in its current location and vegetated state. And I would agree with you on that. The other questions that you need from us, Terry?
I believe that will take
Answers?
care of the majority of them. I do have, I see Commissioner Thompson has a question, but I would like to have a few minutes to talk about the speed zone down there.
Okay. Commissioner Thompson?
Well, sir, you're a neighbor. You know, you have intimate personal knowledge of this. I want to make sure that whatever we say, you're comfortable with, because you're going to have to live with this much more intimately and repeatedly than we are. So I just want to, not that I don't think you won't, but I just want to support your maintaining neighborhood livability in this. Thank you.
Oh, thank you, Commissioner Thompson. I think you stated it at the beginning. We're looking for housing. We need housing in Clatsop County. At the same time, I think we want to, you know, we have the jurisdiction over Ridge Road, and I think we need to protect that. And I think that what Terry's outlined seems completely reasonable. And I share the same concerns that he does.
Good, good.
Okay, there's no other questions. There's been some information and misinformation about the speed zones on and jurisdiction on Ridge Road. Ridge Road is a county road, and it lies within the city limits of Warrenton. Because it is county road, we do have all the design considerations. Whatever we say, if we want a center turn lane out there, the city of Warrenton has no say in that because it is our right of way, it is our road.
Okay.
However, when it comes to speed zoning, because it does fall within the city limits, we have a shared jurisdiction for the speed zones. So when we asked ODOT to take and come in and do a speed zone study on Ridge Road, we both have to either accept or appeal their decision as to the speed that they decide. Their speed limit is determined by the by ORS and the speed zone manual that ODOT has to go by. The state traffic engineer takes a look at the information that he or she has provided and then makes the decision. And basically the decision on that ORS says that the speed limit will be within 5 miles an hour of the 85th percentile of the traffic as it was clocked out on the road. We don't know because we haven't seen the results of that, of their information that they collected. We will probably see it before Christmas. But what we will find is that we did a 7-day study with our electronic counters. Our 85th percentile come back. We did it in 2 different places. We did one down by the soccer field and we did one up by the KOA. And the speed come back at 60 miles an hour on one and 58 miles an hour on the other. Now, if you take and see what the state traffic manual says, they can't take and they have to assign the speed within 5 miles an hour at the 85th percentile. So actually, if we can keep it at 45 miles an hour, we're lucky. You know, the city of Warrenton was asking for a 35-mile-an-hour speed limit.
Mhm.
And we knew going in that probably wouldn't be able to happen based on ORM. So I just want you to be aware that when that study comes back and city of Warrenton's not happy with it, they'll probably want to appeal it. That will be your decision at that point or what you want to do, but I'm just laying it out as what the speed man said.
Yeah, thank you, Terry. Commissioner Thompson?
Well, thank you for that explanation and heads up. I'm familiar with how traffic speeds are set. And I agree with you that 60 miles an hour is what people would like to drive and push to drive and do drive. I think 35 probably is a negotiating point. I think 45 is a reasonable compromise. I think ODOT should go for that. As I've driven around Warrenton, 35 to 45 in most of the outer lying areas seems to be reasonable. And I think we have to set the standard and then hope for good enforcement. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Thompson. I mean, I understand why the city of Warrenton would want a 35-mile-an-hour zone there. It is, again, very busy.
Mhm.
And you have soccer fields there. On Saturdays, you've got lots of kids crossing the street between the soccer fields. It's a dangerous, or I mean, it's a hazardous location there. And I do worry about speed limit any higher than 45. I think 45 probably will be where it ends up, but I can understand a 35 mile per hour as well.
One of the conditions that we were able to get into the notice of decision was the developer was to take and put in a crosswalk there at the KOA Fort Stevens intersection. We've been going back and forth with the city's engineer as to whether it should be on the north side or the south side of that, but it was part of the decision that they were supposed to put it in. State traffic manual says that they will not allow a crosswalk. We were looking for one of the rapid flashing beacons like they have in downtown Astoria to be put in there. And their traffic regulations say that they cannot authorize a crosswalk for speeds that in excess of 35 miles an hour. So I don't know how that the decision, if it comes back to 45 miles an hour, how that will impact that requirement. But we will pursue it because we'd still like to see it.
Yeah, that's a good point, Terry. I wasn't aware of that. And yeah, I would definitely want to see a crosswalk and a 35 mile. And if that's what it takes. Commissioner Thompson?
Agree with you, sir. 35 miles an hour and a flashing beacon crosswalk, essential.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
It's something that we could present to ODOT and see if, you know, for that small section in there, particularly with that center turn lane potential of adding a crosswalk in a 35 mile an hour zone for a short period. That's all I have. I appreciate all the input.
No, thank you, Terry. Appreciate all you're doing. And thanks again for working closely with, the city and with the developer on this. And I appreciate all your hard work throughout the county. Give your team thanks too.
Yeah.
I will. Thank you.
Next is the Clatsop County Youth Prevention Needs Assessment on page 12. And Jill Quackenbush, our public health manager, is joining us.
Yep.
Hi, Jill.
Hi. Thank you, Chair Quayla, members of the board. Jill Quackenbush, Public Health Division Manager for the record. Starting in March 2025, Clatsop County Public Health contracted with Heidi Bertel Consulting to conduct a youth prevention needs assessment with a focus on primary prevention of substance use and abuse. This needs assessment aligns with public health modernization goals of providing data-driven programs and strategies through the inclusion of community input And the results will be used in planning and implementation of our tobacco, alcohol, and drug prevention funds and efforts, and proposed possible uses of the opioid settlement funds. And with that, I'm going to pass the baton to Heidi Bertel, who has been the lead on the assessment, and she can share with you our process and the themes that have emerged.
Thank you. Welcome, Heidi.
Great, thank you. I really actually enjoyed listening to the conversation prior to this. It's always fun to hear about the nuts and bolts of what happens in a community, so it's great. And I actually spend a lot of time down there for fun and for work, so it's really great to hear all of those details. I'm just going to go ahead and share my screen. I'll try to keep this briefish. I think I had about 15 minutes in mind, but I know you had a big conversation, so I want to make sure you have time to ask questions. So like Jill said, my name is actually Heidi Bear too. It's really hard to remember how to pronounce it. So just think of two bears. And I run a small business. I work in Washington and Oregon, working exactly with small, rural, and remote health departments. We do community health assessments, community health improvement plans. We go out and we talk to people in the community. We ask them about their health needs. We do this in English and Spanish, and it was really wonderful to be able to work with your community as well. So this is the cover of the report that will be coming out, and I want to highlight this for you because we intentionally make these reports very visually engaging. So the goal here is to, oh my goodness, maybe have kids read our report. Wouldn't that be cool if some of the youth we talked to actually read it? We want community members to read these. We want nonprofit leaders. We want government officials. We want everyone. We want your neighbor. We want your grandma. We want everyone to be able to pick this up and maybe at least try to engage with it a little bit. So you'll see intentionally it is meant to be an engaging report. And when you actually do get a copy of it, you'll see that. Some of you might recognize this from downtown Astoria. So what is a youth prevention needs assessment? So we do needs assessments all around the region, like I was saying. Health departments are required to do these in a couple different ways. The youth prevention specific one is an extra focus, and it's really to better understand primary substance use prevention, which I'll define a little bit more for you. We had a defined group of youth that we worked with. So we chose middle and high schoolers, English and Spanish speakers. And then we also chose to talk to the educators who support them. We talked to parents who supported them as well. We had some defined data collection parameters. Again, we were really looking at that primary prevention component. And then we had goals for informing and engaging the community. So I just showed you the cover of the report. The idea here was that everyone reads it. The idea here is people pick this up and they look at the data and they maybe understand a little bit more about those needs in your community. So the benefits of conducting this youth prevention needs assessment is to understand what youth-specific prevention issues need to be addressed. So you have very specific components of your community that might look different from neighboring counties. It might look different from a county in the Midwest or on the East Coast, right? So this is a very focused conversation, talking to youth in your community. It helps you design programs or form partnerships to address those needs. So as those needs arise, and they're unique to your community, you can form those partnerships. It helps engage with multiple diverse communities who support youth prevention. So like I said, we talked to a bunch of different organizations. We actually did go in, and I'll say a little bit more. I did go talk to high schoolers. I did go talk to middle schoolers, and it was really fun. We did this in English and Spanish, and this really helps you improve health systems for youth and families. So what is primary prevention? So primary substance use prevention means stopping drug or alcohol problems before they start. So we often hear a lot about substance use after the fact. So getting folks into treatment, things like that. Very important, not minimizing that at all. This is really meant to say, how do we reach youth before it's a risk? We're really wanting to focus on people who haven't used substances yet or are maybe at the very early stages of experimenting or being introduced to things. The goal is to reduce the chances that they'll ever develop a problem, right? So this is really preventative care early on. And some common approaches for this include educating youth about the risks, educating parents, educating adults, caregivers, educators, building some life skills. We heard from youth about what could be helpful for them in that area, creating supportive environments, and reducing access to substances. So those are some ways that primary prevention, knowing about that and knowing what those things are, helps you support that. So again, why focus? Universal prevention. So these are some very public health specific terms that are a part of the primary prevention landscape. So universal prevention, it really reaches all youth through school programs, campaigns, activities, policies. This might be, if you've ever seen a prevention campaign, this is probably happening at that universal prevention level. Selective prevention is more where you target high risk groups like youth with a family history of substance use or trauma, really being specific about youth who might have some key needs before they develop a substance use disorder. And then indicated prevention. So this really helps youth who have maybe tried something. They don't have a substance use disorder at this point, but they're starting to experiment. So these are the three ways that we really think about this. And then by focusing on prevention, we can build resilience. We can help youth make healthy choices. We've heard from youth that they're really interested in understanding, well, what's happening in my body when I use a substance? So this is how giving them that education really helps. It helps use resources wisely. So more people, helping more people and reducing costs. So often when we're already at that substance use disorder phase, there's a higher cost involved. And so if we can reduce that early, that's very beneficial. Building community support. So if everyone sort of understands these are our goals, this is why we're doing this, you can build that community collectiveness. And then addressing those root causes. So really tackling those problems before they start. So this is a little bit of the framework that we brought in. So it's the socio-ecological model for youth substance use prevention. And this is very much part of the framework that is used in a public health setting. Sometimes this is used in a clinical setting too, but again, we're really trying to focus on that preventive. So addressing the issues before they are a problem. So really substance use and exposure to substances and experimentation is influenced by factors at all levels. So we really want to think about all of these. There's that individual piece, but also there's family, there's school and their peers, there's the larger community, and then policies writ large. So really thinking about how all of these impact and support youth and prevention approaches. So I'll talk a little bit about the methods we use for this prevention assessment. Again, we did this in English and Spanish. I have someone on my team who is fluent in Spanish, and she came out. We actually came in person and met with folks, and then we also did a few focus groups online. So we did some virtual focus groups with parents. We did one with parents. We did one with educators all around the county. So we even had actually a great representation. So we had educators from Warrenton, Astoria, Seaside, Jewel, Jill, I think that's it. I think those were and Napa. So we had actually great representation around your county. We also did an educator survey. So this went just to educators to ask them specifically about their experience referring youth to support programs, their comfortability and experience in helping youth understand substance use issues, really their overall needs around how to support youth and students in their classrooms. We did focus groups with youth as well. So I went into Napa High School and did a couple focus groups with 10th graders, which was super fun. I always love doing these. It's a real experience. If you haven't been back to high school in a long time, I encourage you to think about trying to go talk to youth where they are. It's really fun. We also had a written activity that we do, and we also actually did focus groups in Astoria Middle School as well with a great program that works with Spanish-speaking youth called Mi Gente. So those were kind of the two direct in-person groups that we did. And then we have a written activity that we do alongside that. So it's basically like a kind of like a one-pager worksheet, and it allows the youth who maybe don't feel comfortable saying something out loud, Maybe they need to warm up a little bit in the classroom so they can write things down, they can draw pictures. So they are reacting to the same questions that I'm asking in real time, and it's pretty fun. And you get all kinds of fun dynamics with youth in these focus groups. So I actually really enjoy doing it. The ones we did in Napa, it was during health class, and the health teacher actually sat in the back. And then afterwards, we talked to her, and she sort of enjoyed hearing what the youth had to say. And she was surprised to hear some things, and she was encouraged to hear other things. So it was a great experience. Over and over again, when I do these, when we talk to youth directly, they're often really grateful that someone came and asked them. At first, they're a little nervous. They're not sure, am I going to get in trouble? But it's really, it helps them feel like they're involved in this process that's about them and for them. Then we did interviews. So we interviewed all kinds of folks. We interviewed educators. We interviewed caregivers. We interviewed I think we interviewed sheriff's department, legal. I'm not even remembering the whole list, but we really tried to interview quite a few folks who work with youth and support youth around the county. And then we have something called the Student Health Survey, which goes out in Oregon to students ages actually 6th through 11th grade. So there's 6th grade, 8th grade, and I feel like, no, not 10th, there's 11th grade. So those are the 3 age groups that they ask. We, in the report, ended up focusing largely on the 8th grade and 11th grade data, in part because we just don't get as many responses from 6th graders across the state. That's pretty typical. I think they're a little unsure about how to maybe answer some of these questions, and then we get really robust responses from 11th graders. So in the final report, you'll see data, and we really focused on data from 8th and 11th graders. And then how we engage community. So I talked a little bit about this too, but we did community interviews, so directly with schools and youth serving organizations. We did bilingual focus groups. So we did actually do an in-person focus group with Spanish-speaking parents. And that was in person specifically because a lot of folks in the Spanish-speaking community didn't they wanted to sort of come and speak directly. We had actually gone back and forth. We originally thought we might do that virtually because folks were feeling really uncomfortable showing up in person earlier in this year. But then they were able to show up, which was great. We did outreach to increase the awareness. So just really trying to let people know we're doing this in your community. Please support this. And the benefits that we are already starting to see and that we see when we do these in other communities, increased engagement with public health, understanding what the services are, meaningful inclusion of diverse and underrepresented voices. So letting people know. And I will say youth sometimes feel like they are part of this. They feel like they are an underrepresented voice. And so I want to elevate them in this conversation too. They often really enjoy being asked and then just having those intersectional perspectives. And so here's the top themes that we learned from youth and adults in the county. We actually really prioritized, we talked to everyone, but we really tried to emphasize what we were hearing from the youth directly to help inform how to support them. So interestingly enough, we will often hear from adults that they're very concerned about maybe a certain substance in the community or something like that. What we over and over again hear from youth is communication and education. They want people to talk to them. They want people to talk to them directly and openly. They want to have dialogue about these things before it's decided what are the big issues for them. So communication and education was a huge one. Mental health support was a huge one that came up. This came up from educators. This came up from parents and caregivers. This came up from the youth themselves. So overall supporting their mental health so that they're not thinking about substances as a coping mechanism was a big one. The social environment. So some youth come from maybe a social environment that doesn't support them as well, that might not support their mental health. So finding ways to have a bigger social environment, and that led directly into some community resources. So you have a lot of great organizations in Clatsop County. How can they maybe support some of the youth mental health needs and social environment in a specific way? Youth, and I will say, you probably said this as a youth yourselves, they were all like, we need more fun things to do. We need more spaces to hang out where there's kind of an adult there, but they don't really tell us what to do, but they're kind of in charge, So this is a theme we hear all around the region when we talk to youth, but it's still valid. They want to feel like there's maybe a safe place they can go, hang out, kind of some other things they can do to support their social emotional learning and engagement. So here's just a couple of quick data points that I want to share. So youth self-report, and this was in that written activity we did directly with them, that they are getting most of their substance use information from social media. So when they talk about they want to have a conversation, they want some more education, I think there's a big opportunity here. You can see school is where they get it the second most important place, or second most common place. So I think there's a real opportunity to provide some more educational resources for them, so we know where that they're getting good information about substances. We also learned, this came from the Healthy Student Health Survey, the primary prevention should start early. So I talked about how we end in the report, we have 8th grade and 11th grade data, but what you see is that those conversations need to start before 8th grade. So by 8th grade, they're already experimenting with some of these things. They already have some awareness of some of this. So having these conversations early and often is really important, and starting it maybe much earlier than you might think. It might be an elementary school conversation, a late elementary, like early 6th grade conversation. Certainly that should already have started, and just having really honest conversations with youth. And then this was something educators actually self-reported needing more resources and support to engage students. So 75% of the educators that we surveyed reported that they have never helped a student find support for substance use. Now, you could say that that's maybe because they didn't feel like the students needed that. But again, maybe that's where we need to have those conversations earlier. So even if it's helping them find a resource about prevention, not necessarily a resource once they've already started using something. Staff didn't feel super confident in some of their teaching methods. So not almost more than 50% were not that confident in engaging parents in conversations about substances. Peer-based teaching, so helping students understand, learn from each other, helping educators understand the material with each other. Only about half were very confident. They did feel more confident in bringing in guest educators. So I think there's been some experience with educators bringing in outside support. And certainly a little bit more confidence with evidence-based curricula. But again, we'd love to see these confident, very confident bars. So that's that dark blue and that teal. Gosh, it'd be great to see that a lot higher. So that's definitely an area of work to do. And finally, young people want to know why they're being told not to do something. You know, we did hear a lot from youth that they're like, well, I see my parents do it. I see my, my adult siblings do it. So helping them understand, and this is where brain science has come a long way, right? We can help them understand, look, you might feel really old and mature, but your brain, it does not finish developing until you're 25. So let's think about what that means. You want to have all of your faculties as you move into adulthood. These are the things that these things are actually doing to your body, and why, and not in a fear-based way. They talked about, like, we just want to kind of understand like what's happening and why. And so I think thinking about how to do that well would be a great place to focus. Thank you. I tried to sort of move through that quickly since I know you have other things on your agenda. Jill, is there anything you want to add, or does anyone have any questions?
I can add really quick to like what happens now, right? So now we have the completed report. We'll make sure that you guys get the completed report. And now we bring that out to the community. We're already scheduled for December 4th for the county superintendent's meeting. And we're going to be looking at those opportunities where we can bring it back out to the community, groups that we did engage with, wanting to go back to those groups and sharing, this is the information you gave with us, and here's the results of all that information. And then after we take that out to the community, then, and as part of taking it to the community is prioritizing. So where do we want to focus, and assessing capacity, right? Because as Heidi mentioned, this isn't public health doing it all. This isn't the county doing it all, but what are the different, who are the players, who can do what in the community, really looking at collective impact. and capacity. And then identifying best practices. So once we have our priorities, what are the best practices to address, and then how we're going to evaluate the impact of our work. So that's a really, a big part. It's like, this is a lot of work that we've done and we're still doing. And then once we get to the implementation, how are we going to measure if what we're doing is doing what we want it to do? And then have some proposed implementation and looking for, again, what's the collective impact, who can do what, and what resources there are to do that. And definitely proposals for like the opioid settlement funds that we'll be looking at some of the revenue that public health already receives for drug and alcohol and tobacco prevention. How can we be meeting some of the needs of the report and the priorities of the community with those funds when we build our next work plans?
Well, thank you very much, Jill and Heidi. I really appreciate the presentation. Of course, as a parent of a 10 and a 5-year-old, this is a particular interest to me, and targeting our efforts around prevention is so important. I can attest to the social media aspect because it really is influential. I know, just even with my young girls, I mean, they are they pay a lot of attention to social media, and yeah, you hope that we can make some inroads in getting some different voices in front of them. Commissioner Thompson.
Thank you, sir. I support this work as an individual, as a commissioner, as a member of a team that needs to do something. So help us stay engaged, help us stay involved, help us be effective. In some ways, I think this is the most important work we could possibly do. And I just want to be part of it. Thank you for this report. Let's do more.
Thank you,
Yeah.
Commissioner Thompson.
Well said, Commissioner Thompson. Commissioner Webb?
Thank you. What is the timeline that we're looking at for what's going to happen?
Yeah, great question. So we're, like I said, we just got the final report, so we are immediately going to start with doing that community outreach and prioritization. Goodness, and then this kind of work is what's on our biennial plan currently for our alcohol, tobacco, other drug prevention work. So I would say, the next 6 months, year is going to be developing those. Some things are probably going to start earlier than others. It's really just going to depend on what we find out when we go back out to the community and what the capacity and the resources are.
Okay. Do we have a given amount of money that we're going to be receiving for this?
We aren't. We do have given amount of funding that we currently receive through funding that we get from Oregon Health Authority for prevention of tobacco and other drugs. Other funding, there's not other funding that's out there. We didn't do this, necessarily because we had to do it for any reason besides this is what we need to do to identify the needs of the community, to use our resources appropriately that we do have, or future resources that we might be able to access. Like
I
those
thought this was part of the settlement dollars.
Well, that's what I was saying. Like, so we will make a proposal based off this, working with Classic Behavioral Health Care for those settlement funds. But there's been, like, this is part of that, like, how would we use those and how much would we need based on this assessment?
Okay. So there is a report now. I mean,
yes,
something other than what we've already received in the slides?
We will have the full report. Yeah.
Okay.
So that full report just came out, and we can forward that to you. Definitely.
Okay. Okay. And so I guess I'm just trying to figure out sort of how we make a plan. And, so, and you're assuming a full partnership with Classic Behavioral Health.
Oh, definitely. I mean, that's already, the county is already engaged in a partnership
Right.
with CBH, and we
So-
already partner with them on other initiatives as well.
Right.
So definitely.
Okay.
Assistant County Manager Steele.
Hi, I was just gonna chime into Commissioner Webb's question that Jill has already provided some answers for. This is part of the larger plan. We have the opioid settlement dollars. We're trying to figure out the highest and best use of those dollars. And we kicked it off with the treatment portion in the schools, which CBH is currently working on in Seaside, Napa, and Astoria. And then the next piece of that we're also trying to look at as they've gathered this information is the prevention side of that. In addition to some of the treatment that we're also looking at in regard to the jail MAT program and what opportunities we have to expand that program. So this is part of the larger look at, we have these funds, we continue to see additional settlements occur, trying to figure out what the long-term spending is going to look like. So that way we don't put something in place and then not have enough funds to continue to sustain those efforts. So
Yeah.
it's part of the longer term planning process.
Right. Okay, thank you.
Do we have any other questions or comments? Well, thank you, Jill and Heidi. Great work. And yes, I agree with, I think you know that this is a priority for the county and we want to assist however we can. So thanks so much.
Yeah, you're welcome. Thank you.
All right, we don't have anything else on our agenda. County Manager, do we have anything we need to discuss?
No, Chair, I don't have anything else unless the board does. So thank you.
Okay. Not seeing any, so we'll go ahead and adjourn. Have a good rest of your Wednesday. Thank you.